1. Bingo. Aloha, everybody. Good to see you. Ghosts of Hawaii. You know who. Right now, I'm talking to absolutely no one except my guest tonight because no one's in the room right now. But we do have a great show for you tonight. The last time I got together with my guest here, Joe Punohu, we did 2.5 hours of nonstop storytelling, whatever you want to call it. And tonight, I expect it to be the same, and even more so. Whoever came in first, you won an award. Remind me to email it to you. Even more so because we're both drinking coffee, so that should make it even more intense and more interesting. Just to let you know, on Monday, and I'll repeat this at the end of the program, and if you have any questions at that point too, towards the end of the show after we're done telling stories, then by all means, please feel free to ask questions. I know Joe loves to hear from you, any questions that you would like to share. Kuhao, it's good to see you. Nice to see you, my friend, all the way from the Big Island. But on Monday, we have a very different kind of show as I hear my cat in the background. And we're going to have Mr. Dave He. And we're going to be doing a show called Spooky Stuffs. What does Spooky Stuffs mean? Besides my cat yowling in the background, we're going to be talking about the lighter side of the paranormal. So that should be very interesting. And I've never really done a show like that before. So I'm looking forward to that. Cash and Dogs, it is good to see you. Thank you for being here tonight, my friend. Hope you're all doing well, especially during this lockdown that's taking place right now. So we'll start, I guess, right now, as a matter of fact. So with us here tonight, all the way from beautiful Kaneohe. As a matter of fact, right over the Pali, literally, on the other side, on the windward side, we have Joe Punohu here tonight. And I guess one of the things that makes me very excited about this particular show tonight that we're going to be doing Ghost Stories of Old Pali Lookout is the fact that Joe has a lot of interaction with that place, having been a tour guide for Oahu Ghost Tours. So perhaps Joe will be kind enough to share some of those stories as well. But anyway, Joe, who is also, for those of you that are interested, you can probably see it on the screen, Hawaiian Hauntings. Go check it out on Facebook if you haven't already. Great group. I'm sure you will find that you will spend hours just going through all the stuff that they have there. But anyway, folks, Joe Punohu is here tonight. Joe, how are you feeling, my friend?
Ooh, tired and sunburned. But otherwise good. How are you, bro?
Well, I rarely leave the house, so I don't have to worry about sunburn. Well, it is, there's this lockdown going on. Everybody, thank you all for being here. Do me a favor, turn off the lights. If you really want that spooky chicken skin kind feeling, or as they used to say before, the haha feeling all over your skin, as we start talking about ghosts of the old Pali Lookout, kick off your slippers and everything else. Auntie, Uncle, Tutu, Tutu Kane, everybody just relax and enjoy. Take off your face mask, for crying out loud. You can't catch anything here except maybe the chills as we begin tonight's program. So Joe, good to have you here tonight. The last time it was really crazy good. There's nothing more that can actually describe that except crazy good with all the stories that we shared. And tonight we're talking about Old Pali Lookout. Before we, if you don't mind me saying something about that, a personal connection with it. When I was growing up, my dad guys used to always drive us up to Old Pali Lookout. If you're here on the island of Oahu, you understand this kind of vibe. And we would go up there and we would see all the crazy people that thought they were wind resistant, and they would get out of the car and they would try to go up against the wind and everything, open up their jackets and all this kind of stuff, and you see, everybody there because of the place and, the reputation for it being windy. But, when we used to get out of the car, one of the things I would always remember is going to the right side of the lookout, and there was this plaque. There's no longer there, but there was a historical sign that was there in the rock proclaiming what happened a long time ago when tragedy struck there. George 808. Yes, very very windy. And I used to always get chicken skin with that, you know. And as I got older, fast forward because I can. I remember we used to go there late at night. I don't know how many people did that. If Joe did that as well, but we used to go up there late at night, sometimes after night clubbing, and it just gives me chicken skin thinking about that. Just driving in there at night, you probably know that feeling when you drive into Old Pali Lookout, and you know you get out of the car. Back then, there was no gate that was blocking. You could walk down Old Pali Road, and you could feel the spirits and everything that are there. So that's my, and then there's some other stuff I'll share later on, but those are my fond memories of Old Pali Lookout. And so tonight, Joe, let us open that door where you and I and everyone else can share our thoughts in that place and talk about Old Pali Lookout and the spirits that haunt the area. Thank you for being here tonight, my friend.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me, bro. I love that place. It's always the first stop on our tour. When we would, when I worked for Oahu Ghost Tours, and probably one of the most famous haunted locations on the island, if not the most famous. Everybody local knows about the Pali Lookout, the battle, the thousands of warriors that were pushed over the edge, according to many accounts. And, you know, of course, it's pitch black at nighttime. You know what I always like, bro?
What's that?
You get street lights up there. You know the ones, the big old school lamps.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you ever seen them on?
No.
Ever.
No. 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 No.
And
It's
they're
pitch
electric
black.
too.
Yeah. Oh, we got Dave He. Dave He is here tonight. Dave, I look forward to talking to you on Monday. Thank you for saying aloha to everybody. And aloha to all of you that are here tonight. Again, just save your questions until later on when we do questions and answers and all that. Okay, continue, Joe. Go ahead.
I know. So I mean, we go over there was kind of scary for like maybe on a different level because when we would go, there would be like me and Uncle Joe. You know, he has a van, I have a van. And Uncle Joe would do the site, and I'd be at the van waiting at the van, or I would do the site, and Uncle Joe would be in the van waiting by the van. So basically, you park in on the side of the road or up at the lookout in the pitch black for like 45 minutes by yourself with nobody there, surrounded by pitch black at a haunted place, hearing the wind, hearing the leaves blow across the road, and making it sound like footprints, footsteps, you know, that kind of stuff. It's just really, it can be really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like somebody is watching you and that kind of stuff. I'll tell you. Yeah, there's so many stories over there, so many experiences. For me, that was my kind of training grounds. You know, in a way, that was kind of my training grounds where I got to practice. You know, I mean, you go up there, and yeah, for the first couple weeks, it's pretty darn scary, right?
Yes.
Being up there by yourself, waiting for everyone to come back down. But then after a while, it gets to be more calm, and you start to appreciate it. You find things to pass the time. Like me, I play solitaire on my phone. And I learned to not be afraid of that, even though it was pitch black. I mean, granted, I wasn't exactly walking around outside, you know, looking for ghosts by myself. I would read a book or something, but I started to notice that when the fear is gone and I'm reading a book, you really doesn't matter where you are. You're in the book. You're playing the game. You're concentrating on something else.
Mm-hmm.
And those thoughts and ideas that come up to you, like now I'll be playing solitaire, sitting outside, you know, and the leaves will blow across the parking lot, no problem. I don't even pay attention to it. But then one leaf blows across the parking lot one time, and all of a sudden, I get the impression that there's somebody walking in front of me. You know, and I wasn't even scared. I wasn't looking for it, nothing like that. It just came to me. And that's kind of how I understood how to utilize gifts and your intuition. Now, if you're in a dark place, you're scared and you're looking around and you're looking around and you're taking everything in and you're translating everything in as, oh, I heard that noise. That's the ghost over there. You know, then that's probably not. But if you're just chilling and relaxing, like how I compare it to is your home, you know how your house feels daytime. You know how your house feels nighttime. You don't need to turn on all your lights to walk around. There's that one time you may come out of your room in the middle of the night to grab a snack from the fridge, where you pause because something feels different. It's that one feeling. That's the feeling that is a psychic thing that I was able to practice and to identify while I spent so much time up there by myself or doing the tour, or you know what I mean.
Yes.
So for me, as I said, it was kind of a training ground, and it's safe. Yeah, there's ghosts. Once you get past the fact that ghosts are real, and they don't jump out of the bushes like Uncle Joe said and go boo, you know, you start to realize that ghosts were people once, you know, and the people up there were not bloodthirsty savages that wanted to kill you, you know, although it all depends who you are, what kind of energy you put in. We had a group of wounded combat veterans. The whole tour was simply wounded combat veterans, and that place was not okay. You bring in warriors into a place where warriors fought, you know, and the place reacted to them. You could feel the difference in the air. The guys, the veterans would jump up, and then they would feel like they're in the battlefield, and they'd get all defensive, and they'd get ready for it, and I'd be like, bro, you gotta relax, because you're getting ready, and they getting ready, there's gonna be a clash. You gotta knock it off, calm down that energy. You know, right now, you're a tourist. Right now, you're on a tour. You're listening to stories. You're not fighting. You know, really interesting how it could be night and day over there. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I kind of really can put myself in that situation. I did tell a story several weeks ago when we were doing Morgan's Corner. By the way, there's Lord Jubu out there tonight. Lord Jubu, I see you, my friend, hiding out there in the dark. I was out with Jubu, and I told the story, I think, of the person that went up to, although it is not old Pali Lookout, it was up at Judd Trail, and this guy was showing off and mouthing off and saying he was a really badass and everything. Excuse my language. And he got a whooping that night. He got a whooping. He really did. I mean, seriously, he got pushed and everything, and he was terrified. He left that area on his own accord. And I believe that that type of situation can happen, you know. I also kind of think too, is it possible? Let me share something. Okay, again, little off topic, but bear with me. Okay, so there's this spirit that Jen introduced us to named Kainoa. So one night we were up at this cemetery, which shall not be named, but is very active with ghosts and spirits. And Kainoa showed up. And so my roommate was there, and we were talking, and she said, yeah, Kainoa's here tonight. Now, this is why I bring up this type of point too, and I'm going to talk about what Joe just mentioned. So Kainoa's in the cemetery, and there's these other spirits. This is an old cemetery. I'm not going to say how old it was, but you know, different types of people are buried there, and their spirits haunt that place as well. So my roommate starts to tell me that, you know, Kainoa is very busy with what? I say, what is he busy with? Oh, he's all excited. He's talking to all these people that he's never seen in his life, you know. He's interacting. There's this curiosity, you know, whether it's good or bad, the curiosity is still there. So try to imagine in your head this warrior about 7, 8 feet tall, big Hawaiian spirit walking around to all these other types of spirits, and you know, very curious about the situation. So that's, you know, when you talk about the combat veterans and everything, and the other stuff that happened with the person up at Judd Trail, which is of course one of the most famous areas for the Battle of Nuuwana, which climaxed up at Old Pali Lookout. Joe, what do you think? There's some kind of reaction, right? I mean, I don't think I ever told you that story about Kainoa. I know you know Kainoa very well, but
Yeah.
so what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I mean that's why he has a pleasure following, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you guys around, and you and Jen and us when we go out, because brother just makes some new friends everywhere he goes, you know.
Yeah, he's chill.
Oh yeah, he loves it. He loves meeting new people. He loves, you know, that kind of stuff. I could see that, and I could see Kainoa doing that and just loving it, you know.
Yes, definitely. So you think that that is something similar, that the warriors were again reacting to these other warriors, and uh, maybe not a good kind of curiosity, but kind of like observing them and everything and seeing what they were going to do. What do you think?
Yeah, I got the impression that they were confused,
Hmm.
but when you're in the middle of a battle, like many of them are still fighting up there. We've experienced a conch shell many times. We've experienced drums and stuff like that,
Hmm.
sparsely, Um, but we experience remnants of the battle still going on, and they don't know who these warriors are. All they know is that they're not on their side.
Hmm.
Both sides. Oahu and Big Island, Kamehameha's army and Kalani Kupuli's army both agree on one thing: these guys are not on their side. And so that's why when I go up there, when I would take people up there, I'd remind them to respect the place. And I said, keep in mind, I tell them now, picture, picture a Hawaiian man, 7 feet tall. Picture him. He spent his life from the time he was 16 years old training in the art of killing with his bare hands, with a spear, with a rock, with anything he can get his hands on. And he spent decades doing that. This guy is cut in muscle and ripped. This guy is able to lift rocks and boulders and throw them at you. This guy is also under the effect of Ava. Ava numbs you. If you stab a spear, it goes right through him. He won't feel the pain and he'll keep coming at you. Now imagine this one person standing alongside similar ones, hundreds of them, thousands of them. That's where we're walking into right now. So please watch your step.
Wow. Your question about the veterans, did they anything unusual happen, or did they sense something as well? What happened with that situation?
We it was just active and you could feel the vibe picking up that time when I went out with them.
Hmm.
You could feel the vibe picking up and you could feel it like reaching a boiling point. So we left before that because we don't want nobody to have to fight your battle because then that means we have to as well, and somebody will be followed home. But it reminds me of Uncle Joe did another tour, and my friend Frank is a combat vet as well.
Hmm.
Wounded combat vet, I believe. And so it was a tour just like that. He did it with a lot of ghost tours, like another one. And I remember this because they went over there. And Uncle Joe called me up and told me the story. And then a month later, Frank called me up and told me what happened as well. One of the guys was like, I don't believe this. I don't believe that. This is stupid. Ghosts are dumb. Ghosts aren't real.
Hmm.
And then there was a landslide. And
Oh,
that's what blocked off. That's the landslide that blocked off the old Pali Road.
yeah.
That big landslide that made it force them to close it down and everything.
Wow.
That's what it was.
That's what
And the
caused it.
guy just never said nothing the rest of the night.
Oh, so
That
those of you,
happened on Uncle Joe's tour.
for those of you that are wondering, this landslide that happened not that long ago, even, and it really, people had to rearrange their travel routes and everything. If you're wondering why that happened, here is the reason, point of origin with what Joe just said. So take it for what it's worth, folks. Absolutely. I have to say for on my end again, as time went on and I got involved with the paranormal and everything, and was invited by Joe and actually one night by well, a couple times with Mysteries of Honolulu. By the way, if you haven't, go check out Lapaka on Facebook, please. Go check him out right now. Kokua and everything else. Man is fantastic with storytelling. I cannot say enough about Lopaka Kapanui. But so I've been up there on certain nights, and you can really tell like you're in this situation where and I think this really kind of reflects on a lot of places that are extremely haunted. And maybe Joe can reflect on that with me also. Um, like anything could happen at any moment. Like you're just right there when something's going to happen. And
Mm.
I wish you could see this photo that I have. We did this tour up there, and we were walking down Old Polly Road. And long story short, at the end of the situation. It was really interesting that night because as the tour group was there, this and storytelling was going on. This huge ball of light just went down, like an electrified orb, and kind of like floated over the entire group and then just shot off into the dark. So that was really scary. It was very, very sensitive that was on the tour, and he saw it as well. There was a psychic that saw it as well. And as everyone turned around to walk back up Old Pali Road, I took this photo. So this will make sense after I tell you what was in the photo. So, and I didn't see the photo too afterwards too. Took a photo of everybody walking back up. And then when I got to the top and everyone was going back to the van, this person said, "Hey, where's the tour guide?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's at the van waiting for everybody to get back in." He goes, "Tell him come here, please, right now. Just tell him to come here." And I'm like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Just tell him to come here." So I got the tour guide, came back, and he said, somebody just now went, put their hand, bang, right on top of my chest and said, "Wait, don't go anywhere, just wait." He heard that loud in his head as the hand pressed into him. And so he was scared out of his mind, and that's one thing that's good about Lopaka. If something comes up in a situation, he knows how to deal with it, so he did deal with the situation. But this is the interesting part. You take photos sometimes when you go out and you go home and you go through them and stuff. So there I was up that night taking photographs and everything. And in one of my photos, there is this hand. There is this glowing white hand reaching out to one of the people that were psychic, trying to grab his hand. You figure that out. You figure that out. Seriously, if you can figure that out, that's great. But that really scared me. Absolutely scared me. But anyway, Joe, so let's go on with ghost tours and everything.
We have pictures too. We brought up pictures. Maybe think we have one with a clawed hand. Remember that?
Yes. Jeez.
Well, that was we got on the wall. Ghost tours. We have a full body apparitions. And I was there the night that was taken. It was a shadow that was standing up in the parking lot right when I began working for a while Ghost tours. Someone snaps a picture, and there's this white blob in the form of a man standing, looking at you. I got the pictures on my Facebook. I wish I could share them on this, but we're not quite that tech savvy yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's been so many interesting pictures. There's been so many interesting things. In regards to the battle, dude, it's like, yeah, you hear all kinds of stuff. One of my favorite occurrences was we would go up there, and I would notice on like, we went up there on a Friday night, and it was in the wintertime. We'd begun our tour early.
Mm-hmm.
And we started hearing these loud booms, like the drum, echoing off of the valley. And so we turned around and we said, "The hell of this is left." The next week, we heard the same thing on the next Friday night, and the Friday following that, and the Friday following that. And these big loud booms wasn't really in a cadence, but it was enough to get out of there and scare everybody. Come to find out, it was a fireworks show in Waikiki, echoing all the way out of Manoa.
Oh, well, yeah. Ooh.
Because I remember it was the same time every night, and I'm like, wait, there's a fireworks show at this time in Waikiki. And so we looked all the way down as far as we could, and yep, there were the fireworks, so you could see them all the way at the tip.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I remember too. I took a photo. I took a photo, and it was at the Oahu Ghost Tours, and I took a photo of everybody that was up there going by the van. And in the photo, I'll see if I can find this stuff, guys, for you. I'll see if I can find a picture. But there was this it looked like a Hawaiian warrior wearing like a feather cape and like their helmet, like the ali'i helmet and stuff. So if I can find that, I'll show that to you guys somehow. Maybe I'll post it in a community post, and you folks can take a look at that for yourself and tell me what you see in it, because again, there's just something about the curiosity between spirits and people. But in that particular photo too, it was nothing threatening. They weren't raising their spears or anything at all. They were just like walking, walking through the crowd. I mean, I sometimes I kind of wonder if they were just going about their business or just kind of curious, but not wanting to do anything except look at the people that were there and stuff. I mean, the thing about the Pali Lookout is that you gotta remember too. Now, this is a famous landmark for tourists. It's that place is busy. I mean, all the time it's busy. So to have that type of flow between the physical and the spiritual, that's an interesting thing as well. I know,
Yeah.
Joe, you've had some experiences too, right? I mean, I actually took, speaking of photos, one night you were down. Remember when you used to walk down? I mean, as part of your tour, right? You walk a little bit down
Yeah.
the road, right? And I took a photo, and there was like this huge blue orb, man. It was just crazy looking, this robin egg blue orb
Mhm.
above Joe while he was talking. I still to this day cannot explain that. I think we should do a show on orbs one night because there are orbs that, of
Oh yeah.
course, that are real, and then there's something else. But Joe, you went walking down there too. Yes, sometimes. Did you had experiences when you went to walk down? You guys went by the tree. Remember, had the hangman's noose?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's
Any?
been there's been lots of stories. I got lots of stories up there. Lots of things happen. I mean, you figure you go there a few times a week for 4 years
Hmm.
at nighttime for the purpose of telling ghost stories, and you're gonna witness some truly incredible things. Um, yeah, but when you get up to, when you're in the lookout area,
Hmm.
it's a very Hawaiian area. When you're in the lookout in the parking lot, it's in the old days it's a passageway. It's where people would walk from one side of the island to the other. They'd climb up, they'd walk, they'd hike however they could, but instead of walking around the Ko'ola mountain range, that's the point where they could walk through. So it was a very heavily trafficked place as well back in the old days, which is why all the spirits are there. Um, but when you start to go down the old Pali Road, I don't believe that was ever a hiking trail. I think that was blasted when the missionary days and all of this. I could be wrong, but I recall hearing that the original way to get up the old Pali was it'll take you out right into the parking lot, not where the road used to be. The road that was a horseback trail, and then it was a buggy trail, then it was a 4-lane highway, is new. But you going into that area, that's not the area of people. That's not the area of ghosts. That's the area of spirits. I differentiate the two. A
Hmm.
ghost is a person like me and you that
Not yet, but
is
yes.
alive.
Yeah.
It was alive and died.
Yes.
They hunt places where we would be, houses, battlefields. But a spirit is something that's different. Like Madame Pele, she was never a mortal to begin with. All of these other spirits, the goddess of the volcano, and all of these other thousands upon thousands or hundreds of thousands, if you believe some of the old chants, all of these other spirits were never human. And they're still alive and they still do their thing. And they go where we aren't, kind of thing, which is on the tops of the mountains, which is where the old Pali Road was, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Once you start walking down, you enter into a different realm. You feel different energy. You start to feel like you're being watched, but not by people. Sometimes the occasional warrior, but I I hear that sometimes the occasional warrior, sometimes the occasional hiker. As horrible as it is to say, and people go to the Pali Lookout, and sometimes people die. It's a 900-foot drop. Sometimes they go down the old Pali Road. Sometimes they decide to jump.
Hmm.
One of my favorite stories of Glenn Grant's is one that I always tell up there, and of course, giving credit to Dr. Grant. It's a version of his story in the Obake files. You know the one I'm talking about, huh? Want
Yeah.
me to tell it?
No, yeah. I mean, I guess you can give like a roundabout outline of it. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. Go right ahead. Go ahead. Do
Yeah,
that.
I'll do the whole spiel that I do down there anyway.
Okay.
So Glenn Grant one night at Iolani Palace was talking about calling spirits, and this Caucasian guy from the East Coast named Steven came up to him after and said that he had an experience. I mean, He was a college student. He had an experience down on the Old Pali Road. And so Dr. Grant listened. And apparently what happened was a few months ago, Stephen, being new to the island, wanted to check it out. So 10 o'clock in the morning, Stephen goes walking down the Old Pali Road. He parks up at the top and takes a little hike down the Old Pali Road, enjoying the sights, the sounds, the smells, the blue sky, the white puffy, the whole thing. And as he's walking down the old abandoned highway, he sees a girl, a young lady come up the turn. And she's walking towards him. And this young lady was just drop dead gorgeous. She was a gorgeous Hawaiian girl. I mean, this woman was just voluptuous. She was beautiful. Everything about her was enticing. And so he was kind of bashful, just kind of gave her a little real fast smile. And then she smiled back at him, this beautiful smile, and then walked by. And as they walked by, he hears behind him, "Stephen, is that you, Stephen?" Stephen's like, "What the hell?" He turns around and there's a beautiful girl talking to him. He's like, "Oh, hi." I figure, I don't know this girl, but maybe she's behind me in one of the college classes or something. Maybe she knows me. I just, But he plays it off and they start talking. And she's like, "Stephen, is this your first time down here?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, it is." She's like, "Well, good then. Actually, let me show you a place that I just came from. We can go swimming together." He's like, "Well, I didn't bring any swimming clothes." And she's like, "Well, that's okay. Me neither." And she's sort of like seducing him and stuff like that. And so Stephen is sort of like, "Oh my God, yes, let's go." And he starts hiking down the Old Pali Road with her. She tells him, "I'm going to take you to a place where there's a waterfall. We're going to go over there, we can go swimming, and we can, you know what I mean?" And Stephen's fallen in love. But the thing is, as he's walking down, she knows her very well, apparently, because she's walking backwards in front of Stephen, looking at Stephen the whole time. Their eyes lock. He doesn't want to move his eyes away. He just keeps looking deep into her eyes. She tells him everything he wants to hear, and he's getting excited. And then at one point, a few minutes into it, he stumbles, and his eye contact breaks. And he looks down at his feet to get his balance, and as he looks back up at the girl again, instead of the girl looking back at him, it's this old lady. And the old lady, brief flash, says, "Stephen, what are you doing? Run!" And then he blinks like, "What the heck was that?" And then the girl's face is back, and she's enticing him like nothing happened. But there was something about that lady. There's something familiar about that lady. He continues walking, and her eyes meet hers, and they lock. Now something doesn't feel right anymore. They continue going down the road. She continues with her seduction, but Stephen's not really falling for it this time, and it's not really. Something feels very, very wrong as they continue down the road. This girl keeps walking backwards, telling him this, telling him that. And he finds that no matter what, he cannot look away from this girl. She has him under some kind of trance, some kind of spell, that he cannot look away from her eyes. He stumbles, and their gaze breaks again. A few minutes later, looks down at the ground, looks back up, and there's that old lady again. She says, "What are you doing? She's going to kill you. Run!" And then he looks down at his feet, and he notices that he's standing at the edge of the cliff. And in horror, he watches the girl walk over the cliff backwards. He can hear her talking. He's not looking at her. He's looking at her feet. She walks over the cliff, and instead of plummeting 900 feet to her death, her legs disappear, and she starts floating like on a cloud. That's enough for him. The spell is broken. He turns around to run all the way back up to the lookout. He doesn't stop. And the whole time he runs, he can hear her voice laughing in his ear. "I'll get you next time, Stephen." And as he's driving away, completely terrified, at 10:30 in the morning, he recalls that face, that lady that came. That was his aunt who had passed away many years ago, that came to save his okole on the Pali that day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I always love that story.
Hey, quick question. Really popped into my head. I'm sure you've already thought about this as well. Just as a possibility, as all of these things are when we talk about these things. And by the way, I saw someone ask a question. Let me kind of scroll back there a little bit. Abraham asked, question, did any of you ever have a conversation with our Ali'i ancestors? As far as questions goes, Maybe we can answer that later on. But yeah, just everybody, just hold on tight with your questions. We'll look at that later on. Abraham, if you're still here, we'll address your question as well. But Joe, have you thought about this? That could have possibly been a mole.
Exactly. It has the behavior. It has the pattern. And that place she's talking to, I've never been there, but I have friends who have.
Mm-hmm.
You go down the old Pali Road, and there's a little place that used to be this huge waterfall. On the bottom is a famous height called Likeke Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And if you should go up above Likeke Falls, there's the old Pali Road comes around, and then you can go further back into that, and there's a little valley that the stream winds its way down that becomes Likeke Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And the source of that is above a double waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the area she was talking about that she was going to take him to. Mo'o, for many of you who don't know, Mo'o dwell in the water. They're water spirits. Water elementals, people call them. I don't know. Hawaiians have legends of Mo'o. In Hawaiian, Mo'o is like a lizard, dragon, shapeshifter. They dwell in the water. Some of the stories center like the whole Hawaiian guy is going to the back of the valley for something, and he sees this beautiful Hawaiian maiden bathing in the waterfall, and she tells him, "Come, come, come! I need someone to wash my back." And she seduces him into the water, and he jumps into the water. She takes on her true form, drags him down to the bottom, drowns him, and eats his intestines through his account.
Lovely. Yes, I totally, I get what you're saying, and yeah, that's the first thing that popped into my head was that fact, and um, I know that you have some other experiences as well. One of them I want to touch upon in a little while because all of this kind of connects. When you look at the Pali Lookout, there's this, it's like a hub of activity, it's like a focal point, and then it kind of branches off. It goes down the road as well. And I think, if like in that story, the further you go down the road, and like how you were expressing it, Joe, and you were saying it, I think you start to experience other things. That the hub is on the top with the battle and everything, but there's just so many spirits. And I think we are going to be doing a show on just the spirits of Hawaii at some point in time. But I know you walked down that road. You took a chance, my friend. You took a chance and you walked down that road at night. And
Oh yeah,
dude, man,
with
that,
Ivan and Guy. Yeah.
yeah, what was that like?
To be honest, there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a lot of vibes. Right in that area where the valley is, right above the Keke Falls, there's always vibes over there. I wanted to share a story about that one real fast, a little occurrence that happened. And I wanted to say something almost like a disclaimer because Jen really changed my perspective, and I feel that this must be said.
Yes.
A lot of people think of Mo'o like that, but so one night I went down to right above the Keke Falls, took a bunch of friends, a small group of us, and told that story, down there. And the atmosphere changed. Jen told me that there's Mo'o back there, and that story makes him mad, makes him upset. Because you're saying it was them, and it wasn't them, it was one of them. But they are not bad. That one was upset. That one's upset because my belief is that they took the water from flowing into the windward side in Kawainui Marsh, and they switched it into Nu'uanu. I think back in Kalakawa's day, probably maybe even just before him, but they rerouted the water to go to the other side. And Mo'o is now pissed off, pardon my language.
Oh, yeah.
That they did that to the point of being driven insane. But they're not all like that. Most of them aren't. They're just like me and you. We're neutral. We're passive. But I mean, you meet the one occasional person, or you hear about him in the news that is driven to the point of insanity and anger, and that just lashes out and attacks everybody. That's kind of what this one may be. The one occurrence I wanted to share with you guys was I went down there with Guy. It kind of reminds me of the same thing. Was it that night when we walked down? I don't think so. But if you go there in the daytime, you look, it's a V-shaped valley, right? Like one side from the top left slopes down to where the river is. The top right slopes down to where the river is. And right alongside there, if you look, I've started to notice tea leaf plants. TI, not the kind of tea you drink. TI, tea leaf in Hawaii, is sacred. It protects you from spirits. It's a boundary spirits aren't allowed to cross. That kind of thing. You put them where you plant it around your house. You plant it around a place to keep the good in or the bad out, or in some places to keep the bad in. So it can't escape. But there's a line of tea leaves that go from the top left all the way down to the river, and then the top right all the way down to the river. It's a line. You see that too, right, dude?
Yes.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder who did that, because tea leaf plants don't grow wild. It's a root. You gotta plant it for it to grow. So when you see a tea leaf plant in the wild and hiking, that was very likely planted there for a reason. Kukui nut trees, same thing, that kind of thing. Kukui nut groves, they were planted there for a reason. They weren't just wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like a wall to keep whatever is in the back of that valley in the back of that valley and not allowing it to come out. One night we went back there, nighttime, and we're telling stories, and we were messing around with like the flashlight thing, and the flashlight thing turned off and turned on, and we we're getting communication. The EMF meter spiked. We're definitely getting communication. Something really wanted to communicate, and it was making every attempt to communicate with us. And then it hit me. I guess I have psychic moments, but I don't really control it.
Mm-hmm.
This thing that hit me, that it didn't physically hit me, but this thing that was communicating with us was all by itself. It was in the back over there, and it was desperate for human contact. It was what the Hawaiians call a laku, a lost soul.
Mm-hmm.
These are people who die, and when they die, they were not pono in life, so their family will not come to claim them and show them heaven, or Aomakua, the realm of the Aomakua, the ancestors. They are forced to wander around the world, and they are deprived of food, they are deprived of water, they are deprived of something even more valuable than that, human contact. They are deprived of companionship, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Glenn Grant speaks about the Lapu and stuff. It was a Lapu asking us if it could come with us. I could feel the loneliness in my bones. It was pitiful. Behind it, right up along the ridges, and we were talking about this earlier, Obaki, lining the ridges, the left and the right. In my head, I could see Ali'i, I could see Kahuna, I could see all of these ancestors just lining the ridges, watching to see how I was going to react. The person in me, I feel compassion for it. This thing is lonely, but it's a Lapu for a reason. It's not my place to say, oh, you guys don't know what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and befriend it. But yet I wanted to, because it felt like it needed it. And so I worked out a little bit of a give and take, right? A compromise. I said, okay, while we are here, you can hang out with us. While we are here, you can be by us. But once we leave, you must stay. Once we leave, you must stay here and continue on to your journey. Consider this a brief, if anything, respite. And we were there for a few more minutes, and it was still making everything go off, and it was like having fun. And I didn't get the impression that the ancestors were upset, but they were more like taking a measure of what I was going to do. And they were, I don't know if they were okay with it, but they didn't disagree. They weren't mad. I don't think I overstepped my bounds. Yeah, I told you that before, right? That story.
Yes, I was going to say, with what you mentioned about the tea leaf and everything, do you feel possibly that this spirit was somehow kept in that area with the tea leaf.
I believe that the tea leaf was meant to keep the many mo'o back there.
Okay.
Because otherwise they would meander their way down the streams, down into Kanioi, among the people, and they would give themselves a bad name. Because it's not the ones that are good that want to explore. It's the ones that are bad and unhappy. Those are the ones that are going to explore and go down the river and cause chaos in the little villages and make more ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to make all of them look bad. My
Oh.
feeling is that it was meant to keep things up there, apart from us.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say too that, of course, one of the most notable things that was discovered because of the historical aspect of that area with the battle was that when they were building, constructing the, I believe it was the old Pali tunnel, the Pali tunnel, they found like a huge amount of human skulls and such over there as well. And I'm kind of wondering, I mean, did they do something? I mean, they had to have done something with those. They had to have done something. But there's so many stories about. I mean, you can do an entire show, seriously, an entire show about people doing things with Evie. An entire show about that. Maybe even a couple shows. I did one already with Brother Kuao. Um, Kuao. I did one with him, but I mean that tunnel. I mean, there's stories about the tunnel. One of them has to do with a story again by, I think it was on that side. Was it with Glenn Grant? The one with the pork. Remember the taxi driver?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was over by Judd.
Oh, on that side? It was by Judd?
Yeah, that was right at Morgan's Corner. It was right on the turn. That's how I've always.
I heard it was at the tunnel. Yeah, there was a fierce attack over there. Really fierce attack. And of course, more than likely, I would say 80-90% that it was definitely something to do with that. With the fact that it was the pulley and it was the pork, and there was a reaction to that. But then again, you just don't know. I remember one night you and I and another friend that's going to be a guest on my show coming up soon, but we'll talk about that sometime later on. Remember, we were just outside of the Pali Lookout, past the landslide and everything. You remember that place where you can pull over to the side of the road?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there was people. Those of you that are watching right now, all I do is coffee, so bear with me on this. Once in a while we go to these places, and we were there one night, and there was a reason why we're there. I'll let Joe tell you why we were there. But when Joe tells you why, I have to say something right after that. So Joe, I know for a fact the story that I heard is that at that one particular place that you got to give HBD credit and respect, okay? Because number one, I know a few of them, and they have gone through a lot of stuff. There's even a story up at the old Pali Lookout. I think it was last Halloween where HBD was there, and they encountered a spirit there. I've heard other stories when I'm up at Old Pali Drive, stories about spirits and ghosts up there. But they would go up in that area and they would experience things. It's active in this one place. So one night, me and Joe and my other friend and such, we went up to that area, Joe, and you were intrigued by it, weren't you? This is right outside of Pali Lookout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody on the tour mentioned it to me. He's like, "Oh, what is this? What is that place right over here?" As we passed it, I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, it's a little tiny, small little hike, like 1 minute, and it takes you down, and there's rock walls. There's a rock rectangle, almost like a heiau. What is that?" I'm like, "I've never seen it before." And so that's why one night we're cruising on Obaki, and I'm like, "Hey, let's go check this place out."
And
you gonna tell the story, bro?
Yeah, go right ahead. And there's another. I have to tell the other thing after that. Yeah, go ahead. Tell the story, dude. Go right ahead, my friend.
So that was on the night we was just chilling. We was cruising everywhere, just going ghost hunting in random dark places. That's the same night we had. No, that's not the same night we did 13 turns.
No, different.
No, that was a different night. So we was driving back over the Pali, to go back home, and we're like, hey, let's stop off over here. I wanted to check this place out. So we get out, and no, actually, I had gone there before in the daytime with Robert because we were looking for new stops for our tour, and the place was scary in the daytime. And then I went there with Uncle Joe again in the daytime, and he told me, no good, don't take people over here. There's a rock that was used for little kinning, and he showed me how the rock was used for human sacrifice. Then, of course, me, I'm stupid sometimes. I go back, you know. And down there is a rock wall. It's like just says it was as he described it. It was a rock rectangle, a rock wall in the shape of a square. But the most interesting feature was the tea leaf plants inside of it. You don't see tea leaf plants inside of a heiau, I want to say. Typically, they're on the four corners, they're outside. But this one had a collection of tea leaf plants, a whole, just like several of them, concentrated in one area around a big pohaku, around the big rock. And even more was a hala tree growing over the rock. Hala tree grows like a teepee, you know, that's how the roots grow. It grows up, kind of like a mangrove, you know. So it like full on just grew over the rock. Like that rock ain't going nowhere. And so I told Maki I wanted to check it out. And so we went over there. The mosquitoes were so much that, you know, nobody wanted to get out. There was you, me, Jen, and her friend, right? And our friend.
Yes.
So everybody hung back at the car, and I borrowed Obaki's camera. And I walked down there. It's like a minute, 30 seconds. Walked down there to check it out. And something didn't feel right. And I kept looking, and I kept looking. I wanted to get a picture of the rock, a pohaku, and show Obake. It wasn't there. The pohaku was gone. The tree, the lauhala tree, was still there. There was no sign that the pohaku was moved at all. This big pohaku was simply gone. It vanished. So I took pictures of it. I went back up, and I'm kind of confused, and I'm like, what the hell? You know, dude, the rock's gone. Like, what? Like, the rock's gone. And then I forget what happened, but I remember we started to pray. I'm not sure if something happened, or I remember all of us got out of the car, and we stood in a circle, or a square. You know, there are four of us. And we started to pray. And as we prayed, we heard a whistle. Like a person whistling.
Yep. Oh, and I've experienced that a few times. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Coming from over our heads. Like 20, 30, 40 feet above our heads. Now, you know, there's no houses there. You know, there's St. Stephen's, but that's way down, you know.
Yeah.
And we continued praying again, you know, even more because we heard the whistle. And then we heard, like, the whistle again, closer. And the flapping of wings, like these big leathery wings, something that's right above us, hovering above us. Our friend looked up, and he saw a woman with these humongous bat wings hovering above us, looking at us before she flew off.
Figure that one out, guys. Seriously, figure that one out. I remember another time we went up there. We took a much larger group. Could be Lord Jubal. You just never know. This island has so many different types of spirits that could definitely be walk.
Oh, real fast.
Yeah, you gotta do something.
No, real fast. I wanted to add on to that. Walk.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought too. But then Glenn Grant mentions right along the cliffs of the Pali where we were.
Yes.
There's petroglyphs. Right?
Yes.
And the petroglyphs, I mean, they're so old, the Hawaiians don't even know what the petroglyphs mean or how they came or what the purpose was or anything like that, you know? But these carvings, there's one of a person with bird wings, and that has never been seen anywhere else, you know?
Could be Batwoman.
You tell them what the wak-wak is.
The wak-wak is very similar to like the aswang. Matter of fact, it's an aswang is an umbrella term for many different variations on the same thing, a type of vampiric entity that will feed usually on like pregnant women or something along those lines. There's so many variables that the Filipino culture, and that's another thing too. We don't only have the Aswang and the Wok Wok. We have other types as well, like the Capri and stuff. But anyway, so we went there another night, and there was like a larger group of people over there. It was Marie and some other guys, and we were up there that night, and everybody went down. They did the same thing. I think Justin was there as well. Everybody went down, and they were filming and stuff. But at one point, no joke, maybe the only time I've ever saw what I saw, but I swear I saw something that looked like a lizard-like thing. It was all gray, and it went from the bottom. It was at the base of the tree, and it just started to climb up. And I just, when it's kind of like,
How big was it?
oh, pretty damn. It looked like the size of what it reminded me of? Like a panther or something like that. The way it just climbed up that tree, putting its claws into it, and just rushing up the tree, just boom, and went up into the tree and was gone. That kind of reminds me of a situation where something just, it's so unexpected happens day or night. It just throws you off. You can't even kind of put everything together in inside of you or your head. And I was just baffled by that. I mean, and the scary thing too is we got people going down there and checking it out and stuff. So you think about that, and hello, Faye, good to see you, and everyone else that's coming in tonight. Aloha, and all you folks, thank you for being here tonight.
Hello,
That connection, again with the mo'o, because it was this it was big and it looked kind of like a lizard, and it climbed up the tree. It was very good at climbing, as far as I know. Lizards like trees too, and but right nearby is Old Pali Lookout, and that's why I kind of like brought that into the conversation, and that it's just like that Batwoman thing. I mean, when you see stuff like that, you don't exactly look at the world the same, especially at night. You just don't look at the world the same, and you just really get a healthy respect for the type of spirits that could be wandering around at night. And that's why I really truly believe that the Old Pali Lookout is just this hub for a lot of activity. Then it just kind of like branches off from there. Matter of fact, from what I understand, what was once said is that if you go to the top of Old Pali and you're on the windward side, it creates this spiritual triangle. And I think it extends all the way down to Kauai Nui Marsh. So within the triangle, that would cover St. Stephen's and everything else too. That's a highly active location, extremely active with spirits. And again, you just kind of like have this feeling of not, because you hear it, then you see and experience, like me and Joel do. And you're just never the same with all of this stuff. I mean, absolutely never, ever the same. I know too, I heard this too, Joe, that Old Pali from the actual lookout going down the road, there's been suicides, and the other thing that's been there too is unattended deaths. That's for real. That those things have happened over there, unattended deaths. And think of the place that's nearby as well. The tragedy of Didi Bustamante. This is you're not talking about this long stretch of land or whatever, between each of these things. It's all kind of situated in one area. And sometimes I gotta stop and I gotta wonder if these places can draw in things. There's a thing called the stone tape theory, if I'm not mistaken, where energy gets stored into the environment. Now, what if it's drawing in this type of situations to happen? What do you think about that, Joe?
It's very possible. I mean, that kind of energy that's very complex. I gotta think more on that, but
yeah.
Let me talk my thought process.
Sure, please go ahead.
That kind of energy would attract light spirits. And I'm very familiar with that area down at the bottom, Kiona Ole Aloha Road.
Yes.
where Dee Dee was murdered. We've been there many times on the tour. That place just feels like a breeding ground for negativity, negative spirits. It's you walk there and it's hard to breathe. You walk there and it's scary every step, and it's unlike any other place I've been to. I've been to Manoa Falls hiking trail, and it's relaxing. I've never been to Aloha Road once, where the vibe was relaxing and welcoming.
Yes, I agree. Remember the time we went there? Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. So it makes sense that those kind of places would attract stuff like that. In fact, I remember one time we were there before we got kicked out by the cops because they put up new signs, right? There was somebody in the bush talking. We would hear this guy in the bush. Well, there's nobody there, obviously. We'd hear noises. A guy trying to talk to us in the bush. And we had a psychic one night tell us that there's a guy in the bush. And he died in a motorcycle accident right up the road. But for some reason, his spirit was drawn there. And I think that same night, as she said that as we got out of the van, and as we were getting back into the van after the site, we heard a wreck, a car wreck, right up where she said, right after she said that. When we drove by, there was no wreck at all. So for some reason it was drawn there. And, it makes perfect sense now, because what's right up the road? St. Stephen's Diocesan Center. Now, the Catholic Church and Christian churches have a very interesting habit of building their churches on places where, not random places like, oh, let's find a place, we'll build a church right here. No, you're like, oh, we're going to build this church where there was once an ancient Hawaiian temple. We're going to build it over the temple. We're going to take this place and use the mana from it, maybe, or as a way of out with the old and with the new. But St. Stephen's is not just a church. That's where the fathers, that's where the brothers, that's where the priests, for the most part, live. Right?
Yes. Definitely.
So, of all places they would choose, they chose there. That could also be a sign as to what may linger in the area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That may also suggest evidence just by its presence there. My priest that I knew, said that things happen to the priests over at St. Stephen's as well. They have spirit problems, they have hauntings, they have all that kind of stuff.
How can you not, though, when you think about it? And if you look at the biggest picture you can,
go church.
Yep. But if you come from Honolulu or wherever the case may be, or from the Windward, and when you reach the place of Nu'uanu, and I know if Faye is watching, she totally understands what I'm saying, and anyone else who drives to Nu'uanu, it's interesting how that whole place is just, there's these spiritual centers. There's like churches and other type of spiritual areas there that people have built, and I always thought about it, and I said, you're going up to Nu'uanu, you're going, eventually you're going to hit Pali, and again, it's just, the whole area is phenomenal, actually. But I kind of wonder, why is everyone doing that over there? Why is it just in this one area? Again, are people drawn to the situation? And instead of like the opposite of what we're talking about with dark spirits in areas like that, there's something else. I think there's a balance to Nu'uanu, that there's areas also where people come to that place and they feel like they should express themselves spiritually. So there could be some very good places as well over there, and so it's a nice mix. But make no mistakes about it. The places that we talk of, and that's why I say, some of the most haunted places, like Joe said earlier. Oh boy, you talk about Old Pali Lookout. People can share all kind of stories. I bet you if you went online and you look, you're gonna see, you're always gonna hear the same thing. One night I went up there. That's how most stories start. One night I went up there, and we were up there with my friends, and something started to happen. So I know one night I was up there, and there was a group of us, and we were filming, and we were doing a spirit box. And I have a video of that somewhere, and I actually made it into a sound bite of a video as we were doing what we were doing. And that's scary, you're talking about something that's coming over the lookout itself, where there's that huge drop. There was like this loud. Now, I've heard screams. I know Joe's probably heard screams, but this particular scream, trust me when I say this, and that makes me think about Batwoman and that huge mole and everything. This scream didn't even sound human. Not in, and and I've heard owls and everything. I mean, you're out at night, you acclimate to sounds. You can tell for the most part, but I could not identify what that is. And that just really takes you to another level of thinking when that kind of stuff happens. So there's something to be said about Old Pali Lookout. There's something to be said about these areas in general. Yeah, you hear kitty cat? Yeah, who's got the cat? Cat is outside doing his thing. Cat will probably end up being on MTV at some point with all that song making he does out there. But yeah, folks, it is one of the scariest places, in my opinion. Uh, is there anything what's your overall impression about when you went down Old Polly Road and everything else? What's your overall impression about that place again? You think that there's many different types of spirits and elementals, right? Is that what you think?
Spirits, entities. I hesitate to use the word elemental because it conflicts with my Hawaiian blood.
Okay, go right ahead. That's fine. That's why you're my guest, and I'm even part of your audience, my friend.
I also have white blood, and so I can describe them as elementals and stuff like that. It just sounds like when we share our ghost stories about our mo'o, we're sharing stories about our mo'o, not about an elemental that's found all over the world. We're sharing stories about our mo'o,
Yes.
but specific to Hawaii and native to Hawaii. The ones that live here in Hawaii, not the ones in Japan, they're completely different. Not the ones in Europe, they're completely different. They have many similarities, but they're completely different. But yeah, I feel like when we went down that road, there were things. That's kind of right around the time I started noticing that there was a bubble around us.
Mm-hmm.
I could feel things skirting around us, and when you're pono and you do the right thing and you approach things from the right angle, like we did, we went down there to hike and to check it out and see if anybody wanted to say hi. We didn't go down there to look for evidence or to look for ghosts or, you know what I mean? We had no agenda. We just thought it would be cool to walk down the Old Pali Road, me, Guy, and I.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was our, we started off with our protocol. That was it. We asked permission, we stated our purpose, and they allowed us to go through. I could feel things all around us, but nothing came close because whatever, that we had the good spirits in the area, our guardians, watching over us. God, Jesus as well, Michael the Archangel, all of that stuff. Michael the Archangel is not one to, he'll let the lesson be taught. If you need to get your butt kicked because you're doing something wrong, yeah, he'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
He'll go ahead and let a ghost come in and kick your butt real fast, and then he'll kick him out, but still. We were good that night. We were pono, and it was good fun.
I think one of the
Before
scariest.
Ivan.
Yeah, Ivan. What about Ivan? Ivan experienced something.
Yeah, sore legs.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a quite a walk down the road. I know one of the most scariest things that happened was, occasionally in the past, we get together like a small group of people, and we go early evening walking down the Old Pali Road, and I've never ever heard of anything like this before, except for this one occasion. So we're standing around and we're talking about the place. My guests, who will be coming up on this program, was there with us as well, and all of a sudden, there's that change in the environment that takes place. It can be one thing about ghosts, and I know Joe probably agrees with me on this. At one moment, everything can be just, like nothing's going on. It's peaceful, and then all of a sudden, it just changes. Everything starts to change around you. And so what happened was, I believe I had walked away from the group to go check something out, and I started to feel the vibe and everything. It's like, gotta come back. And when I came back, uh, my friend was like, "We gotta leave. We gotta go now." And I started to experience it too. Something was going on. He was talking, and he said, "We just gotta go." And I said, "Well, why do we have to leave now? I mean, I kind of feel what you're talking about. My friend. I feel all that stuff. But why do we have to leave?" He goes, "Because," and he looks at this. If you ever been Old Pali, okay, especially when you walk down the road on your right, it's just mountain. So just think, it's just mountain, huge rock, right? That's just there. And he heard scratching coming out from the rock, and then he heard like someone coming down the mountain itself. So there's like this scratching and weird sound, and someone coming down the mountain, and it's just like, at that point, man. Number one, you don't want to know who's coming down the mountain. Number two, you don't know what kind of energy that takes or whatever that is to make like it's something is scratching the rock. I've never, have you heard anything like? I've never heard that before in my life. So we definitely left. We got out of there. There's just no way you're going to hang out. There's just, I'm not the type of person, and I think Joe's not the type of person. Like, okay, so what do you got next for us? Especially when someone's climbing down the mountain, that kind of thing. And so again, the Pali is just intriguing on so many different levels because you can have all these different types of experiences and such. And speaking of experiences, Joe, if I may ask you, um, besides the vets and everything else, have people expressed things on the tour that they felt when they were there?
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff. There was that lady who was with a stick.
The what?
With a still lady with a stick. She was
Okay.
on the tour by herself, an older lady, and she kept getting mad.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, she's like, she kept getting like to the point where she got really mad. She's like, people keep touching her. She's like, we're in a group telling stories, and she started getting upset and like shrugging people off, and we're all in a group, so all together we're kind of close, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you okay? Or she's like, yeah, people keep touching me. They just have to stop touching me. I don't like them touching me. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, don't touch anybody unless they're a part of your party, please. And it continued to the point where she started just like swinging out at people, and people stopped standing by her. I mean, there was a good 2-3 feet space around her where she was standing now by herself, and nobody would go near her, and she still kept getting touched.
Wow.
And someone snapped a picture. She said something kept touching her, so someone snapped a picture, and there was a little small white mist, a few feet high, running by her. It looked like you could see the movement lines and everything. That would be like Menahuni. That's what I thought it was. But Menahuni were having fun.
Wow. Yeah, could be. Could very well. They're mischievous. I'm just going to say it in a roundabout way that there's a Menahuni connection up at Old Pali Lookout. And if you'd like to hear more about that, maybe he'll share it with you. But if you go on one of Lopaka's tours, you might hear about that one night. But yeah, it's not my
Mm-hmm.
place. It's not my place
Mm-hmm.
to say that story. So, but there's connections with that as well, in case any of you are wondering. So that kind of really, I love to have talk story with Joe and other guests because then you start kind of like putting the connection of the dots and everything. Someone says, "Well, something's going on with Old Pali with Menahunis," and then Joe will say, "Well, the one night this was going on," and then boom, there's that connection that takes place
Mm-hmm.
with that as well. Um, One of the stories that me and Joe have to share, and I would think it was actually one of my YouTube videos, is one night we were leaving Judd Trail, excuse me, but we were leaving Judd Trail, and we were just kind of like driving around and having fun. You want to tell them about the mist and everything, Joe? We're just driving around, right? We're just driving, and
Oh yeah.
remember that one? Go ahead.
Oh, that was the one though. That was Was that 13 turns, right?
No, uh we went up to old Pali Lookout, and there was the mist.
Oh yeah, recently.
Yeah, I remember that. That was.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were doing a Facebook Live, and
I was
it was
doing.
caught on the live too. We
The,
just chilling. We drive it down. There's that whole mile-long stretch of pitch black road that's scary. If you coming down from Kaneohe to Pali and you take the cutoff to the Pali Lookout, yeah, we drove down because it was open. We turned around. We was driving back up towards the lookout, and all of a sudden, this huge, just like mist, just fell on us. Like you could see everything in front of us, and then all of a sudden, boom. Sight distance like nothing.
and it was reacting, right? It was like moving
Yep.
intelligently, and that was, you talk about ectoplasma and spirit mist. I mean, this was like, think about that for a second, guys. Again, we're talking about a place where a lot of things happen. There's just so many things: murder, unattended deaths, the Battle of New Wanu, and you see like a giant, big, you know, concentrated energy, whatever you want to call it, just whoop right in front of your car. I mean, or Joe's car. It's like, well, I hope that we get out of here okay, which we did. But I know we were just blown away, like why, but it was there, and you could tell it was different. It wasn't weather. It was just something that was reacting intelligently to you being there, which I don't recommend anyone trying to do. Don't go looking for the mist. Leave the mist be. Seriously, just let it go. Don't. Joe, we've been up there before. I mean, I know
Oh yeah.
we took people up there. I mean, we parked the car. There's very few feelings, right, Joe? Parking the car up at Old Pully and
Well,
getting
Pali
out.
Lookout, yeah, that place. Even though we did on the ghost tour, we go to a lot of places. Pali is one of the anchor sites we call because everybody was always they love the Pali. Everybody knows ghost stories about the Pali. Every ghost hunter's been there in like their first place or their first or second place to check out. It's safe. You go up there. It's a big parking lot. You don't even need to get out of your car.
Mhm.
I have people cracking up as we driving up the Pali Highway with all the lights. And then as soon as we take that cut off to the Pali Lookout, everybody starts to get quiet when the blackness just starts to engulf us and everything gets dark. And they're like, well, we're really getting out of the van or what? I'm like, yep, man, we're going to be walking away from it. But it's very, I don't recall anything bad ever happening up there.
Yes.
Like other places, people get attacked. Other places, things will happen. Over there, I'm not saying it's impossible.
Right.
But whenever we go up with honor. We go up with protocol. We go up with, we know what we're doing. We don't go up and ask the ghosts all kind of questions. I remind the people, you are the guests in their house. Behave, or they will kick you out.
Joe, I just got a creepy thought. People have jumped. Oh, it's just a thought, so please excuse me. And if there are any spirits that are listening, I'm just expressing myself. I don't mean to insult. Trust me. After doing this for years, there's no way I would do that. Even when I came into this, I never ever once insulted. But talk about that story that Glenn shared. I think about people going over. I think you have an understanding of what I'm saying. I'm not saying that that's the case at all. But when you do this, you kind of like go over every possibility that could, be looked at in these situations. And I'm sure, and God bless and God rest all of them that have done that, because it's not one or two people. It's happened over the years, and I can see people as well just seeing that place and saying, if I was going to end it all, it's going to be right over this cliff. But
Yep.
it just kind of, for me, it just kind of, I hate to say it, Joe, it just kind of makes me wonder, it,
Yeah.
uh,
It happens. From time to time, it happens.
yeah.
People still go over there to jump.
So it's a suicide spot too.
Yep.
Yeah. So
There's it's an interesting place. It's very heavy with mana. It's very heavily trafficked with both people and ghosts. has a lot of legends, there's a lot of stories, and you're likely to get an encounter if you go up there at nighttime. A lot of people on the tour would be like, but I want to see a ghost. I'm like, all right, then come up by yourself. You know where the place is. Come up here at nighttime by yourself and hang out long enough and you'll see a ghost. Or you'll have something grab you or something will happen like that, that kind of stuff.
Ask you. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
And I wanted to share one of the stories. I was thinking about that, Puno, and he was doing things the right way. And
Sure.
There was one time we did it. Because I'm a tour guide. I can't allow people I can't go up to a site that's haunted and tell people, oh, the ghost said we cannot go. So jump back in the car. I know you paid $60 a person, but we don't cut this site short because the ghost said we cannot go up tonight. So I leave it up to the people, and I leave the consequences up to the people. One night we started up, and we parked outside the gate and we were walking up. And this lady told me she was a psychic. She even had a card. She gave me her card, and she's like, oh, I'm a psychic. And I'm like, oh, right on. As we were going up the road towards the parking lot, I remember there was a guy, Micah, I think. He was watching the van. I remember something was weird. Something didn't feel right. Somebody was coming down the road to tell us something. And in my head, no, then she tells me, she's like, Joe, there's a guy coming down the road right now. I'm like a guy or something else? And she's like, no, it's a guy, it's a ghost. And in my head, I saw this old Hawaiian man, kind of looked like Uncle Joe a little bit, long hair. He has the thing over it. Uncle Joe has a little red thing over his shoulder, like Kahuna style. But for some reason, this guy, I could see him in my head, and I imagined him crawling down the road on his elbows.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, what's up? She said, he's telling us not to go up tonight. He's telling us that tonight is not a good night to come up because the spirits are doing something. So I'm like, well, damn, I can't tell the group, I'm like, well, I can't tell the group not to go up because they paid for it. Like, how about the lookout? Can we go to the lookout? Is that all right? And then she looked down the road for a little bit, listened, and then came back and said, okay, yeah. He said the lookout, but don't go further. So I said, okay. We walk up. And then she tells me, oh, by the way, I told her we're walking up, and I'm like, oh, by the way, what did the old man look like? She's like, oh, he was old, and for some reason he was crawling because he never had legs.
Whoa.
It was weird, like not like floating, but he was crawling down the road, and he looked like a kahuna, a priest. Well, we went up, and it was quiet. No wind, no clouds, no noise, a clear, beautiful night with nothing at all, just silent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get up over there, we get up to the lookout, tell the stories, do our thing, and then I'm like, all right, guys. I'm like, this is what I usually do. I usually suggest to people to go down, to go down the road. I don't know why I opened my mouth, but tonight it was requested and asked that we don't. I'm leaving the choice up to you guys because you guys are the paying customer. Of course, they all wanted to go down. We're like, oh, let's go down anyway. And I'm like, well. And then I'm thinking, why did I give them the choice? They don't know,
Yep.
So, yeah, but I'm like, whatever. Let's go down. And so we started walking down from the lookout, right where the wind picks up when it's windy, right where the wind tunnel is. This place, you'll see it, you look up YouTube videos, people can sometimes fly, that kind of thing. The wind is so strong. We started walking. Actually, no, we had stopped right before the lookout because that's right, we were told not to go to the lookout. And as we started walking towards it, the wind tunnel, I remember the clear sky turned cloudy. This very, very thick mist engulfed us, where you could barely see 10, 15 feet in front of you. Barely at all. you know. And so I'm having trouble keeping sight of the group. And it's sort of this fog, whatever, is so thick, and then the wind begins. Then the wind picks up to a howl, and it starts blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing. And I'm like, kind of mad at myself. I remember thinking, like, well, freaking people, they want to come down, we're going to go down, and they're going to see what the heck is down here, you know. And I'm leading the group, and I'm putting one step in front of the other, fighting this wind that was easily 60 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour. This wind was strong, and it was ripping through us. I get down to the bottom, right to the very bottom. Before I could even take a step, I couldn't. I tried to lift my foot up and move it forward, and it hit like almost like an invisible barrier where I could not. No matter how stubborn I was, no matter how hard I tried, I could not move my foot forward. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I turn around to look at the group as the wind is ripping through us still in the fog. And I see people, like I see a girl clinging to her boyfriend so she doesn't fly away, you know. Everybody is on the verge of literally being blown off the cliff in the safe direction, not off the cliff, but the other way, right? And so I yell on the top of my voice as loud as I can. Okay, guys, turn around. We're going back. And if you're walking back, I have my flashlight beam. I'm in the back of the group now. I'm walking back, and I can notice something eerie. The mist hung. The wind was ripping through us, but the wind did not affect the mist. The mist did not move, did not shift. The mist just hung there like there was no wind with this wind. So we walked 10 yards, 15 yards from the lookout to where there's a little plaque now, a little green area. Maybe a little bit more, but yeah, regardless. And you can still hear the wind howling. We're out of the wind tunnel, so we're not feeling it, but you can hear it. And then I stop and I look at everybody and I'm like, okay, who wants to continue? Who wants to try again? Everybody said, no thank you. Boom. Just like that, the wind stopped. The fog was still hanging around us now. As we walked into the parking lot, the fog followed us, and it started to slowly just fade away, this dense fog. But anyway, we get back to the car, and there's two vans, right? There's like 23, 24 people, and I noticed that the driver of the van is missing. The other van.
Wow.
He was a driver. He wasn't a storyteller. He was just there to drive the van. He was missing. And so I jump in the van, I start honking the horn. Maybe he's in the bushes taking a leak or something. I don't know, you know. So finally I see him a couple minutes later running up from the highway. Pali Highway, running up from the highway. Soaking wet. The guy was always quiet, you know, very kind of quiet guy, cool guy. You know, he was all right. He worked with us until his girlfriend didn't want him to because she's afraid he'll bring stuff home with us. I told him, hey, buddy, okay or what? What happened? How come you was down there? He's like, oh, sorry, Joe, but had some stuff happening up here. Something was shaking the van, so I went down there with the lights on, right by the highway. And he went right in the median of the Pali Highway. He said he went right into the median and sat under street light. And then he came back when he heard me honking the horn. I'm like, brother, you all right or what? You soaked. You are drenched. I thought he was so scared that he sweat through the clothes and all that.
Wow.
I'm like, brother, you sweating or what? You okay? And he's like, oh yeah, no, it's not sweat. As I was sitting under the light, it started raining on me, just on me, like buckets of water, just under the light where I was sitting at. I looked at him like, for real? He's like, bro, for real. I remember driving out, I looked at where he pointed, where he was sitting down, and everything was dry. Everything was dry. It didn't rain at all. But right under that place, there was just a huge puddle where he said he was sitting. Yeah, that was the night we didn't follow the rules and be Punohu. And we got to experience the ancestors putting their foot down. You know, I'm glad they was just wind, you know.
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't something else. I mean, imagine if we had pushed further and if we had, you know, gone back, if we had actually seen something we weren't supposed to. Who knows what would have happened though?
Maybe that's why, because something was supposed to happen that night and no one's supposed to be around or something. Who knows? Well, it could be. Um,
How it was explained to me is that there was like a ceremony or something that was going
yes,
on that we couldn't
yes.
be a part of.
Okay, so I got something here. 13 Souls and Faye talking about that. And I heard this as well. Not exactly paranormal, but I heard a story of someone jumping, but being blown backwards, right back where they jumped. And of course, Faye said, "Have you heard of the person who tried to jump and the wind pushed him back up?" Yeah, I heard that story. I don't know if you heard that story too, Joe, but I heard about it. So
I heard about it, but not specifically the details and stuff. I heard something that happened to somebody.
I know once I was, I won't say circumstances or anything else, but once I was running. You know, when you run it, you try doing EVP up at the at Pali when it's windy. It's a very interesting thing. Spirits are said to take ambient noise, different types, I guess, including very strong wind, and they use it to communicate. So one night while I was up there, I had my recorder running, and everyone's different with EVP. Some people do bursts, short little EVP sessions, but my way of doing it back in the day was just to let that recorder run, no matter what. So the recorder was running, and at one point in the wind, and I'm not going to say why it said that, okay? I'm not going to say why. But in the wind, as it was blowing, like, in the wind with a, you heard, "Get out, get out." Yeah. And it's even more impressive because there's this howling wind blowing. And in the midst of that wind, especially after what Joe said with that story, someone was saying, and was like, "Get out." Like, "Get out." And I'm like, "Whoa, you really mean it?" It's not kind of like a hint. It's not like you're trying to hear something that's might be, because EVP, you have class A, class B, class C. This was a clean A plus EVP, so I believe what Joe said, because that popped up in an EVP. So probably the only time I heard that was in an EVP up there, was that particular sound. I know someone else that was there one night, and they got a conch shell. This was at the top of the pulley though, and they got a conch shell that they recorded. I think that's the same night, and that's rare. I'm sure you've been up there, Joe, like that, when it's just like calm. There's no Try go up there when it's calm and there's no wind. Tell me how eerie that is. No wind up at Pali. That's really, really spooky too. But we were up there, and I think that's why she got that recording of the conch shell. But that's the same night that's when Lorene said, our dear friend, to go up there, because we had requested to be up there and to see if it was okay for us to visit, because she would communicate with the spirits there. That's all I'm going to say about that. But that's the night that 3 white owl. I'm not joking. And I asked Kuhao about that, and because some people were like mocking, that's the thing. It's like, wow, if it's a white owl, it's something else. I'm like, but some people have said, Almakua, it's a spiritual sign. It's a spiritual sign when the owl is white, and this wasn't like normal owls, man. These owls were big. Okay, you look at the trees, and they came and they flew from wherever they came from, and I mean they flew from whatever they came from. No joke. And they kind of like descended upon the tree, not even landed, like they're descended in a very spiritual way, and they settled into the tree, and they came 1, 2, 3. And if you're looking for that, I think that's what Lorene had said too. She said, we asked if they could give us a sign. How much more of a profound sign besides besides the sound of the pahu or the conch shell or anything else like that could you get, as far as one of Hawaii's most well-known Aomakua? Talk about chicken skin, everybody. That is chicken skin. I wish you were there, Joe. I think it would have blown your mind. It would have just blown your mind, man. They just showed up and they were like observing us. and white. Have you ever seen pure white owls? These are white owls.
Oh, I got my story right down the Pali Highway of the white owl that almost flew into me. Remember?
Sure, sure. Go ahead to share that story too. We're talking about things in the area, so I mean situations. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh yeah, okay. One night coming home from the ghost tour on my motorcycle, my Harley, 1 o'clock in the morning. This doesn't happen very often in Hawaii, but there was a fog, a mist. Now, I think driving the Pali that night at 1 o'clock in the morning, that's the only time I ever drove when there was a mist, like a fog.
Hmm.
It doesn't happen. It was throughout the whole kind of valley kind of thing. And there's a place where Old Pali Drive comes out and it merges to the Pali if you're going up towards Kaneohe. I was driving by over there. The 3 lanes quickly become two, and they merge into 2 lanes. And I was driving on my motorcycle, and the fog got really bad. I could barely see anything. So I slowed down. I could see the lights of the cars ahead of me. Not the lights, not the car light, not the car itself, but just the brake lights,
Hmm.
shining through the fog. And so I just kind of kept pace with it. As I was driving, riding my bike down over there, just, all your senses are heightened. You're just very careful. You don't want to hit the car in front of you, or on a motorcycle, you're dead, right? So driving, and then right around that area, right after where the Old Pali Road is, something flew by me. This huge white owl flew by me. The wing, its wingspan was huge, and it almost knocked me clear off the bike.
Oh.
It was like less than a foot from hitting me and knocking me off the motorcycle at like 35, 40 miles an hour. And if you ride a motorcycle, you don't exactly go, oh my God, and throw your hands up in the air, because then you're just as dead. And you won't be riding a motorcycle anymore. But so my reaction is I freak out, is I immediately slow down and I start veering off to the side so I can pull over into the shoulder lane, and then I can properly freak out, right? Once my bike is parked and it's turned off and I'm not going to hit anybody or no one's going to hit me, then I can properly freak out.
Mhm.
So I slow down and immediately start veering off to the right onto the shoulder lane, and that's when I realized that the car in front of me was at a dead stop. And I barely missed hitting that car, like with my left leg, because that car was so close. This car just came to a dang dead stop in the middle of the Pali Highway. And if that owl had not flown in front of me at that time, the time it did, I would have went right into that car and ended up on the front of it.
I would be talking to you via spirit box probably too.
Yeah.
Owl, owl. Cool House says, I want to thank Uncle Joe Punohu for sharing with me via email regarding Ulupo Heiau.
My pleasure.
13 Soul says, that happened to me on my motorcycle coming up South Point on the Big Island. Pueos follow me too. I think it was my headlight they were attracted to. Well, you know what though? Honestly, and if you guys have any stories about Owl Mako or anything else, please share it with us. There have been accounts, really, true life, and that's why I love doing these shows with Joe and such. These are like true, like this happened, not like secondhand source and stuff, but there are stories where owls. Joe, I'm sure you've heard of them before too. They intervened, right? They've intervened on the behalf or some, or they've navigated people out of a situation. You heard about that too, Joe?
Oh yeah, my sister has shared with me a personal story on Maui about that.
Mm-hmm.
Guiding them on the old Hunter Road.
See, telling you folks, and then everyone's like, well, that's not the traditional owl of Hawaii. They're they exist, okay? These big white owls. They're not your normal. I mean, owls are big. They're big, okay? I mean, you go out at night. In the old days, you used to see them all the time in Kailua and other places. But and even at Kailua Drive-In, they used to fly around there. It's like, oh look, the double feature is the owl. But they fly around. But these white owls are something else altogether, And what Joel describes, that's like an incident serving a purpose. Okay, so that's where you really look at the paranormal, and you got to kind of hit the pause button, like Joe did. Like, hey, I want to pull over and calibrate this all in my head. And that's what's so amazing about, the Hawaii and their symbols. I mean, me and Joe could go on about the white pig and everything else too. There
Yeah.
was a story too, Joe, where I'll share it one day if I haven't shared it already. But when my mother went to the Big Island and it was for her sister's funeral, a great tragedy, and they ran into a white pig that did something. So that's Hawaii for you folks. And if you're listening on the mainland, what Joe says is so true. These are our stories, our places, our owls, our pohaku, and we take great pride in it because they are significant. And storytelling like what Joe does and everything, that's a lineage, okay? That is a lineage. That is, a beautiful expression that goes back to long time ago because the Hawaiian people never had written language. I mean, they never wrote stuff down. Everything was, expression and chants and telling things to people. So yeah,
Mo'olelo.
yeah. There you go, my friend. It's just like that. It's just, and this is what makes these shows so wonderful. Absolutely. We just get together and we say, hey, what about this situation? And that situation, and it just goes on and on. And Mr. Dave, he said something. You used to see him every so often driving home by the Pali Golf Course. Which one? The White Owl. Pali Golf Course, that's where the kind, the little people are at. Epa in that place. That's where they are at. Talk about all this stuff. It's almost like a wonderland. Wouldn't you agree, Joe? Some kind of wonderland that goes up in Nu'uanu. There's a lot of scary places, but when you talk Nu'uanu and you're a Oahu resident, people kind of like perk up, like, oh yeah, the road or the lookout or something else.
Yeah, everywhere you go. But Nu'uanu seems to be the hot spot. I like because you can just drive up the valley and spend like a whole week just driving up the valley to go to all the haunted places.
Yeah, and the ghosts will come to you. They will. You don't have to say, hey, what, you gonna show up tonight? No, no, no. No matter what, I'm gonna be here. It's like, yep, I get it. Me and Joe have experienced quite a few amazing things in that area, and I'm sure it's not done yet. That these things will continue as they had before we were even brought into the picture. But at this point, if you guys want to kind of like share any type of thoughts or anything, that would be great, honestly and truly, because yeah, that was quite a few experiences, more so than I thought, because I've been there. I'm not like Joe. I haven't been there a lot. Joe has been there, geez, uku billion times, as we say, like lots of times. But it's interesting how you say like there's not really something that bad. I mean, okay. I'm gonna ask something right now, Joe. The next show I'm thinking of doing, and I wanted to hear your opinion on it, is Manoa Valley. You want to do that?
The whole valley or specific parts of it? Because there's a lot of
Whatever you want to talk about, my brother. We just talk about going up there, visiting with your friends or anything, or tours and stuff. Because I know that place is incredible. So,
Oh yeah, I wanted to add some perspective real fast.
Sure.
You shared the story about the flying thing over there.
Okay, go ahead.
I've come to realize by telling these stories, brother, we people talk about 13 turns that don't even know us because of our experience there.
Yes.
People probably go ghost hunting over there too because of our experience there.
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
It's weird for me to have people telling me my own stories.
Oh, Will, yeah.
You heard about the story over here? This guy is telling a story where this happened. I'm like, oh yeah, I was the guy that told the story. But
yeah.
I'm conflicted because people are going to go to these places and they're not going to be pono. They're not going to do the right things. But then again, who am I to talk? Because I go to these places. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I could say that I have the blood of Kahuna Nui. I said I have the blood of a high priest that would have a relationship with the spirits and communicated with the spirits, which is my intention. To listen to them, to talk to them, to teach them and to learn, that kind of stuff. But it still doesn't, justify it. to add perspective, because I mean, if we're gonna go into Manoa Valley and talking about that, bro, a lot of people just they go in for the thrill, for the rush. That's not a place you want to go in for the thrill and for the rush, or you're gonna end up with your life changed, and you're not gonna be the same person again. So many people are like, Joe, they always tell me, Joe, let's go back there. Joe, let's go back there. Because that's one of the scarier places I've been to.
Oh heck
But
yeah.
like, to touch back on that one story, the mo'o, um, the wing thing, right? Now I picture a swan. I picture the woman who leaves the lower half of her torso home, and she sprouts or grows wings, and she's flying around, literally with her intestines and entrails hanging behind her. You know, this is the picture that's in my head of something that's looking at us. Now the rock, the Pohaku that disappeared. I've done a little bit of research and investigation and brought psychics there and got their impressions. So we know that there's more there. Jello, Justin heard somebody call him his name. Our psychic friends said the same thing, that there are mo'o and women down there. Protection, they're guardians. This stone, to be in the middle of that rock wall, to be surrounded by tea leaves, this stone is, in my opinion, an evil.
Okay.
And the reason why they surround it with tea leaves is to bind it, is to keep it in there. The reason why they have mo'o that you saw, mo'o guardians, you know, because when I went down there, our friends, my psychic friend, I'm not going to say her name, but she was like, there's guardians here. They're women and they're shapeshifters. I'm like, they're mo'o. She's like, yes, they're mo'o. I'm like, she's like, they want to know what we're doing here because we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be here because we may release this evil entity by our kolohe, by our curiosity, by just being stupid. We may release this demon upon the world or bad things that the Hawaiians took to bind it. You know what I mean? They've built an entire thing around it. They're keeping people out of it. And come to think of it, Obake, all the desecration that's done there, people, it's a dumping site. People go
Yes
there
it
and dump
is.
their garbage. They throw their rubbish, their construction equipment, everything you can think of, from dead dogs and pigs. You know, this thing must be horrible to deserve that kind of desecration. And, when I go down there now, I don't touch anything. I
Mm-hmm.
look, I communicate, and I feel, and I make sure nobody touches anything because you touch the wrong thing, and this thing that took many, 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 many people to seal will follow you home. This is the things that you see in the movies and video games, this ancient evil kind of. You don't want to mess with this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Listening to it, hearing it, this is perspective. I don't go back. I went back there because I wanted to know what was back there. I'm still trying to get, and I was still trying to gather evidence. I haven't been back there since. I took a friend back there that was psychic when she came down, Jamie, when she came down to Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
because she's a sensitive, and I wanted to get her impressions. And no, we didn't touch anything. That night we went down, it was probably a night it was allowed to roam free momentarily. So it roamed free, and then the Guardians decided to put it back. Kind of like, okay, you have an hour of yard time, in prison. You can go out in the courtyard for an hour and then come back in. Yeah, kind of like that. But these places, be careful, be respectful. I share these stories so that people don't need to go through the same thing to experience what I go through or what we have been through. You know. What do you have to think? What do you think about that? About?
Oh, I absolutely 100% agree. I mean, there's no two ways about it. This is all, I always say on this show that, and this is how I came into the field. It's just, be humble in your space and in what you say and what you do because it's not only it involves the paranormal, it involves your life. Please folks, think about that. We're all learning. People talk about the afterlife, about these ascended spirits and everything else. I cannot tell you that that's real. I honestly think, again, like I said in the past, that Even the most powerful psychics, what they're given is a keyhole to look through and then get an idea of what they see through that. And the picture is much bigger than that. But we need to be humble and learning. And if you're going to learn, you take these stories that you hear, and even, from the greats like Lopaka Kapanui, um, Uncle Joe, or, the my favorite of all time, Glenn Grant. I think one night we should do a show dedicated to Glenn, and I think we'll probably do it around Halloween. I want to do it with my dear friend Joe as well, because we are not only fans, we truly admired this person. But take all this into consideration, everybody, okay? And take it to heart because it's real. When we share these stories, and I've said this before, I'm not saying, hey, why don't you go in your car tonight and go to this place and check it out? Number one, that's stupid. I'm gonna say it straight out. You're stupid if you do that, on your own terms, because they're not gonna work on your terms. They're gonna work on their terms when you go out. If you're not
I always tell
experienced,
people go out and do it.
yes,
Go out, go over there, get hunted. Tell me a story so I can tell other people the story of what happened when they went to go look for ghosts.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and you can get to trust me, you can get seriously zapped. I'm not saying zap like your energy drain. I'm saying zap like something will jump into your body without your permission. And that's the worst kind of thing, Even channeling and mediums, I don't really agree with that stuff. I don't, because if they decide for some reason it's really powerful and they decide not to leave right away, Joe has talked about that experience with a woman with many spirits in them, whatever. Who knows if that's I mean, a natural born channeler, but not able to control it, But if there's enough of that going on and you get a horde of spirits or something powerful, all of this stuff,
Legions.
yeah, demons and stuff, man, it's just like, it's like playing with the spiritual nuclear fission. Make one mistake and you might have a meltdown, honestly and truly, So, this, take to heart what Brother Joe here is sharing with you folks, I mean, it's very important. And on top of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, you'll have a better experience with the islands if you're like that. Trust me, Joe, don't you agree? You can have a beautiful experience in the islands if you're just respectful to the people and the culture. Am I right, Joe?
Yeah, yeah. And this is where I am now, and I took a long journey to come to where I am now, meeting a lot of people,
Hmm.
coming, trying a lot of different things. I used to be the ghost hunter type before, but I just like to sit down and listen,
Hmm.
and not. I'm not looking for evidence. I believe in ghosts, and I say this. I said this already. I said it in the group a lot, but I mean, you believe in ghosts or you don't believe in ghosts. Nothing I say, nothing I show you will change your mind. Now, if I show you a picture of an authentic ghost, you're going to tell me it was photoshopped. If I show you a video of a ghost, you're going to say it was, faked. If I let you download my brain and you can see my experiences with your own five senses, you're going to say that I'm schizophrenic. So, there is no way for me to prove to you that ghosts are real. But that's why I've never looked for ghosts. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but that's why I don't look for evidence and look for stuff. I like to use these devices to see what's the best way to communicate with them.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we can talk story. I mean, imagine talking to somebody of ancient Hawaii. Imagine talking, not even to Kamehameha the Great, but imagine just talking to a regular Maka'ainana, a commoner, and getting their perspective on things. That would change my entire life if I could do that.
I agree. Absolutely agree with that. I mean, I remember, what was it? One night we were up by Kapa'a, and we pulled our car over to that place that Joe took us to. That's another story to
Me
talk about.
either.
Yes, yes, yes. We'll probably do Kapa'a one night too. Although I know our experiences aren't that many because we're not always at Kapa'a, but still yet, man. Whew, that place gets some stuff going on too over there.
Oh, I
Um,
got a good idea for Kapa.
I got one too. I'm going to share with you off the record, but when I do share it with you, I don't think people should be involved in that. I'll explain it to you later, Joe. Um, but anyway, yeah, folks, this is what makes Hawaii what it is, and I honestly feel that, and I said this before, there was a certain TV show that came out. I speak my mind. As anyone who knows me in the paranormal, I will speak my mind. Uh, when they came here and they did their show, they really did a mockery. I'm going to say it straight out. The channel that came here did a mockery on Hawaii spirits. How dare you? You know, I mean, like my dad said, whatever's out there, I'm a Christian, but whatever's out there is out there. But how dare you, misconstrue things? And Pele is like the grudge, type of thing. That should be a big clue for you folks who saw that show, you know, and they did the wrong thing. I've always hoped that Hawaii would be on the map with great respect when it comes to all of this. And Glenn, you know what? Glenn did it and was on the way to do it even more. And that's why I feel right now, with a show like this and people like Joe and Hawaiian Haunting and stuff, we have an obligation. I honestly feel we have a heartfelt obligation, if we're true to the subject matter, to put Hawaii respectfully on the map, because Hawaii is just based on so much of the spiritual, in a very unique way. Ask Joe about the times when he's out there talking and the wind comes and what Joe thinks about the wind. There's so much to be said about these things, honestly and truly, to be said about the spirits here in Hawaii. And what were some people saying? Let me see here.
Yeah, any questions, guys?
Oh, someone has something interesting to say. Owls are fifth dimensional from Laku the ascended aspect of Sirius. Well, owls are very, I absolutely agree. Owls are very, very, owls are like that. People are making jokes about my cat. My cat is doing it. My cat is background for this, My cat is background for all of this. But cats, speaking of cats, you know how good I feel that I have cats in this house? You know how good I feel about that? Because they are truly spiritually integrated animals. If there's something going on in your house, if your cat acts up, yeah, take that into consideration. Justin,
Yeah, my thoughts, bro. The cat go sit down and watch you. There's a ghost coming up behind you to choke you. The cat's just gonna watch you. He wants to watch the show. I'm a dog person. The dog will be barking at it. I wonder if it's gonna choke him.
Mr. Gonzalez, is that you?
Okay.
Oh, somebody there. Oh, just you. Anyway, you let me in on the Kapa'a idea. That sounds awesome. Yeah, you want to go one night, my friend? You know what? Honestly, me and Joe and the crew, we haven't gone to Kapa'a. We haven't. Not in a very long time.
So let's go back to Abraham's question.
Yes, sure. Let's go back together. Let's he asked us. Scroll back. He asked if there was any type of communication. I go all the way back here. I love this crowd because this crowd, they share a lot of their input. Aloha, I don't know if you're still watching, but she even said there's a stream by Likeke Falls called Kamo'ali'i stream. Okay, yeah. Okay, Abraham, I don't know if you're still here, my friend, but let me look back for you. Question, did any one of you ever have a conversation with our Ali'i ancestors? I can answer that, but it's not me who had it. And it was by probably the most famous spirit of all time. But go ahead, Joe.
No, you go. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So let me tell you a story. And this actually touched my heart. And you know what? This is what I found out about it. It blew my mind. So, one night it was just me and my roommate. And once in a while I mention her. I don't say her name or what she does. She's retired from all this and doing some great things on her own as well. But one night, me and her, we went out to this one place that's very, very well known. It's a palace, and this was years ago. And as we were there, I was going to leave like a lei, as a sign of respect. So I went to put it where people put the lei. And as I do that, my roommate goes, "No, don't put it there. Stop, don't put it there." I'm like, "Why? This is where everyone puts their leis and shows respect." I go, "No, do not put it there." And she says, "I will tell you where to put it." So here I am waiting in the dark. And eventually my roommate goes, "Okay, come with me." And she takes me to this one place. And it's one of the doorways. And she says, "Okay, put it right here. Because I was trying to say, what, here, here? She goes, no, no, put it right here. Just put the lei down. So, I did. And not too long after that, my roommate starts to cry. And my roommate is a very, she's a strong person, she's from New York City and she takes pride in that. That's a pretty tough place. And, but I saw her like cry. And then she was talking for a couple of minutes. And now during this time, I'm standing a couple feet away, and I start to feel like there is this shift and a change in the environment. Again, with what I said about ghosts. It's a very powerful, powerful feeling. I don't want to, I kind of like, are you okay? But I don't want to interrupt, if that makes any sense. Because something important is going on in that moment. And then, so afterwards, this went on for a couple of minutes now. She's talking quietly and she's crying and everything. And, I've never seen her really do that in any of our situations. And then finally afterwards, as we were leaving this place, she kind of told me that, I just saw someone. I said, well, who did you see? She goes, this person was with an entourage, and, he was dressed, like, what do you call them? Like, she describes it, the Ali? She goes, yeah, like an Ali with the helmet and the feather cape and everything. And she said something amazing, absolutely amazing. She said, but in this situation, unlike the other ones, the cape and the helmet was like gold, like a bronze color, very unique and very different, and he was there. And she said he had his men, his bodyguards with him, and Jen has seen before. Trust me, talking about Manoa, when we were out there, when Jen describes ghosts, when she describes the warriors, and my other friend who's a psychic confirmed it, they're not small. I mean, in life they were big, but the ones she describes are like 9 feet tall plus. That's huge, And his entourage are huge, and they're business, all business, being there around him. And she said, what happened was she was being called to the area. I guess it was. She'll probably correct me afterwards if she hears me. But she was drawn to the area to leave this lei there. And during the course of the conversation, the Ali'i said, thank you for remembering me, or remembering us. Thank you for remembering us. And I didn't know this until after, okay? So you tell me what's going on with this when we talk about ghosts. That day, I didn't know this till I got home, was Kamehameha Day. It was Kamehameha Day. Now talk about amazing. So I'm looking through the internet one day and I'm looking at pictures and Jen is there. She knows nothing about, this is what's amazing about Jen. She knows nothing about our situations. How many times? Time after time after time after time again. She just nails it. Absolutely nails it. So you're going through, looking at Hawaiiana and history, and she sees this picture. She goes, that's the guy I saw. That's the guy I saw. And I looked, and it was a picture of Kamehameha when he was younger. How much more of a connection do you need to these type of situations? How much more of a connection do you need? Kamehameha Day, and she guides me to a place where she, and I heard about these doors, and just like, these doors represent different things. And here, let me blow your mind a little bit more, okay? Let me blow your mind a little bit more. Let Joe Punohu confirm this to you. Joe, what happened during the battle? Where did Kamehameha go? To that place, right?
Exactly to that location.
Exactly to that location. Right, Joe? Yep, exactly, right?
From what I was believed, he didn't even reach the Pali Lookout during the battle.
Yeah.
He was praying at the temple where that house now stands.
I got chicken skin, dude. I have chicken skin on me, talking about, situations, and I know Joe has probably had quite a few, but That, I mean, that, yeah, I don't know why, for some reason, that is just,
Mm.
it changes you. It absolutely changes you. Me and Joe always talk about, at times, that these spirits observe us. They're looking at us. They're seeing what we're doing. And that is just incredible. I mean, it just
Yes.
floored me that that actually happened. And
Yeah.
these are the experiences like Joe shared tonight too, and I'm sure with groups like the group that he has, and just person to person type stuff.
Yes.
You just sometimes you're just kind of like shaken by things, and sometimes it just touches your heart.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story. I would love to
Oh
write that
yeah.
story one day. That
For
is just.
me, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. The way you told it, bro. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, for me, I don't. He brought up Kamehameha Day. That reminded me. I was on a tour at Kamehameha Day, downtown walking tour, ghost tour, and we ended at the Kamehameha statue. And in honor of Kamehameha Day, I told one of my favorite ghost stories over there. And I remember my this only happened to me twice in my whole life.
Hmm.
One was during a case, and one was at this time. My phone decides to butt YouTube. It's something like YouTube opens and starts playing music by itself
Wow.
in my pocket,
Hmm.
and it was playing the sovereignty song. They took the land, they took Aloha, they took the Queen,
Hmm.
but they couldn't take the mana. That song started playing. And on Kamehameha Day, in front of Kamehameha statue, and all the local people started laughing, and all the tourists were like, "Oh, that's a cool song. I like the beat." I'm like, that was funny. I haven't had. I probably did. I can't really remember. A lot of things happened to me, and I don't document them. I try to remember them with my memory. Maybe that's the Hawaiian in me, or maybe I'm just lazy and I like write them down. I don't know, but I like to remember the details and remember the stories as they happen, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, one person that talked to Ali'i would be one of our friends who can astral travel. She
Yes.
astral traveled to the palace and she spoke with King Kalakaua and Queen Liliuokalani inside of the palace. And she perfectly, to the letter, described how I envisioned their personalities, and conversations and other stuff as well. Um, I don't recall right now speaking or having a conversation with Ali'i. However, one of the spirits I do have a conversation with from time to time, with the help of mediums and psychics and other stuff and paranormal signs, and that is not an Ali'i, but it's a Hawaiian god, Ku.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You have a connection. I know.
It started with Kuka Ilimoku, but that's a story for another time. And I
Yes.
think he refined his persona because he can still be terrifying, but he can also be helpful. Sometimes he's a very unpredictable spirit. Who
Hmm.
he can be the god of war and demand human blood and that kind of stuff, or he can protect you and he can guide you and he can help you. That kind of stuff. I have a psychic friend who keeps getting messages from him, and he tells her, and she tells me what he's saying. Like, oh, it's time to visit him again. He has a message for you. Oh, you're supposed to hurry up along your path. He's getting impatient. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's
Well,
incredible.
that's all stories for another time.
Oh, definitely. And like I said, oh, look at that moon tonight. Sorry, guys, I can see the moon, right? The moon has been
Hey,
incredible
me
the
too.
last couple of nights. I'm not trying to go, oh, look at the weather today. But the moon has been very powerful looking the last several nights. And, for people like us that do this type of work, it's kind of like, ooh, tonight would be so good. It's like a yellow color, the corn moon, harvest moon. But yeah, folks, on a very wonderful and beautiful evening, on Saturday night too. I mean, absolutely incredible. I gotta do some more Saturday night shows and such. But I think our next show will definitely be with or Joe can think of another one too. That's fine. But I would like to do Manoa. And again, to take this into consideration, no one is saying, "Hey, go out there and do things." I mean, one thing I gotta tell you right now too, before we sign off tonight. I know me and Joe have experienced this as well, and I've said this amongst our community and such. Watch your kids, yeah, around Halloween time, yeah, because you can see the Popa Kiki ones going up there at night on the road. I remember one particular night, me and Joe went up, and it was in October. We went up there. Remember, Joe had a whole bunch of
Oh yeah, cool summer.
yeah, your kids parked up there at Old Pali Drive, and Joel is always like, "Hey, we gotta check on these guys." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Go down there and check. He start talking story with them. We tell them one big scary story, two scary stories. Like, "Oh, Uncle, thank you." We're like, "Yeah, okay. Now do me a favor. You see the lights behind you? Go drive back to the lights. Go drive back to the lights and enjoy the lights, because you don't know. You don't know what's gonna happen, bruh. Like me and Joe seen crazy stuff. We just so take that same thought into what we're saying. We're not saying, oh, go out and do these things. I mean, if you're gonna go do any type of things, consult people like Joe Punohu and stuff, and talk to him and get the opinions that really matter in these situations.
Desktop Gen 0E. Alexa wanted to turn on. Sorry.
Maybe Alexa can tell us stories.
By Imagine Dragons on Amazon Music. No, Alexa, turn off.
Oh, who's gonna get some background music if not? Hold on a second. What is being said here? Wherever I go to a Heiau to do ceremonies, I feel so much peace there. He was saying that King Kamehameha is my great 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 grand uncle. Okay. Jen is very amazing. Yes, she is. Whenever I go to a heiau, Kuhao was saying, to do ceremonies, I feel so much peace there. Him and his warriors are all like one big giant ohana to me. Well, Kamehameha is from the Big Island, and his heiau is there. I've seen it. It's an amazing place. It's an amazing place. I mean, that whole thing about how the Hawaiians create heiaus and everything, that can go on forever with thoughts and everything. I really like Kimchi Squared. Hi, by the way, hi Kimchi, good to see you. I really like Joe's definition of ghost versus spirit. I've always wondered about it, so that was helpful to know. Oh yeah, that's why Joe is good to have on the show, because he'll break it down, and people will walk away with a better perspective on things. But yeah, Joe, with what is this? Is there a definition of obaki that you guys gravitate towards? Well, first and foremost, the word obaki is a Japanese word that is like, again, it's an umbrella term that can mean many different things: ghosts, spooky monsters,
Also,
yokai.
Obaki means strange occurrences.
Yeah, strange occurrences. It can mean all kind of stuff, But since obaki, for me, it was like the big word you say in Hawaii is obaki. Seriously, before you say anything else, people's like obaki, obaki, ooh, the obaki. So that's how I got my name. Though, like I said, I don't believe in hunting them; they can hunt us. But is there a definition of obaki that you guys gravitate towards? Um, I just say it's a mystery. There's so many elements to it. It can be scary. It can be meaningful. But then again, we will never really nail it, because we're not supposed to. That veil is there for a reason. And
My definition of Obaki is the guy you're talking to.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's me, guys. It's me. You guys probably didn't know that, but it's me. Anyway, thank you, Obaki Hunter and Joe Punohu from Aristocat. And Aristocat, thank you so much for always being here. And I really,
Aristocat's awesome.
and she is. She's a wonderful, beautiful human being. For sharing some stories with us. I really appreciate it always. Good night. Good night, Aristocat. Abraham says, thank you. I was just interested to know and hear all your stories. Keeps me curious about our ancestors, especially Ali's, since I'm a descendant, house of Kanikoa. Is that how you say it? Oh, Joe Espinda is on tonight. Mr. Joe
Uncle
Espinda,
Joe.
Uncle Joe. Aloha, Uncle Joe. Oh, man, you folks go watch the show that we did with Uncle Joe a couple nights ago. There was a couple really wild things happened on that show. At the very beginning, there was some kind of shadow or something that went right across the screen when he was on. And it was incredible. His stories and everything else. I mean, seriously, good stuff. I mean, top notch. And then there was something else that happened where there was like he turned off the lights and there was this lamp in the background, and it looked like something went in front of the lamp. That was crazy. And Uncle Joe has agreed graciously to do a show about ghost stories of Waimanalo. So I'm sure you guys are going to want to watch that as well. And Uncle Joe, if you're still listening, someone else did a experiment with a similar type of toy that you were talking about, and I got the link for it in case you're interested in getting one of them or a couple of them. They used it with a haunted doll, and it actually worked. So yeah, I'll let you know. Let me go look for the link, and then I'll send it to you in a text message and such. But guys, go check out his show. Seriously, good stuff, man. I mean, really, really good stuff. We rock and rolled for 2 hours, just like how I rock and roll with Joe. You know, we just go back and forth, uh, ping ponging away from one experience to the next. But yeah, look for that, everybody. And of course, again, a couple things that are coming up. Monday, Dave He. We're gonna change things up a bit, folks. We're gonna experience the lighter side of the paranormal. I had the privilege of talking to Dave on the. Dave is my moderator from my group, and we've become friends. And the reason why he's a moderator, we've become friends over social media. But it was really cool talking to him. So Dave, he is on Monday.
Awesome.
Kimchi is saying, does Joe feel comfortable sharing contact information for asking more questions? If not, that is so. Oh, I'm sure Joe always is open for that stuff. Trust me. But yeah, Dave, he is on. You think that's going to be a cool show, Joe? I think it's going to be cool
Oh yeah, of course.
with Dave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my contact info.
Yeah, please, Joe. Go ahead.
If you have Facebook, Joe Punohu, or you can email me at Joseph Punohu. That's Punohu at gmail.com.
And don't forget,
Joseph, Joseph. Then all backwards. Oh yeah, and I have a group on Facebook, Hawaiian Hauntings, where you can get a hold of me as well. And it's a great community. I like it. Mentioned it a few times. We have shirts, we have coffee cups, we have masks.
we have cookies.
Yeah, I'm gonna start selling the masks. We have coffee cups.
We have cookies. Come to the dark side. But yeah. So that's info for him, and yeah, and on top of that, tomorrow I have to give a call to my guest. Trust me, you have never heard anything quite like this. But he's going to start being a guest on my show, and one of the things we're going to talk about is it's ghost stories of Kauai, but not like what you think. This is entirely different. These are very dark, scary stuff. There's the occult involved in it as well. And my friend can actually, he's very good at this stuff, just like Joe is. I'm just someone that listens to all these guys. I'm just like, ooh. But look for that. I'm gonna have him scheduled for a show. I'm gonna book him for this and have him talking about ghost stories of Kauai. After that, we're gonna do some stuff on spirit photography and other things as well. Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a great show. But again, it's not me, guys. It's my guests. It's you guys as well, chiming in with all these great questions and stuff. You guys make it happen. Oh, thank you.
Kuhau's question. I've never had a dream about a white owl before. I don't really even recall much of my dreams. He asked that question a little while ago. I forgot.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, sorry about that, Kuhao. But yeah. Again, the white owls. I mean, you don't see them that often. Here in Hawaii, at least, you just don't see that. But again, that's what makes this place such a wondrous thing to experience when it comes to these spirits and stuff. Joe, what a great night of storytelling. I'm sorry, but 2 hours feels like an hour. Oh yeah, and you too, Joe. Uncle Joe, I will be in contact with you. I look forward to ghost stories of Waimanalo. I lived there for a while, and oh yeah, I'll just say that there's we used to go visit a friend of mine. Real super quick, but we had to walk past this school, and it gave me the heebie-jeebies. Then I found out why it gave me the heebie-jeebies. So Uncle Joe, if you know anything about that school, um, let me know. Yeah, when we do the stories about that, it's notorious. I mean, you got Bellows over there, you got Sherwood's, White Lady sightings, which connects to Makapu, and of course globally as well. It's gonna be great. These shows are fantastic. So Joe, next time, if that's okay with you, let's do Manoa, and then just
Yeah.
keep hitting that map and looking at different places and such, and
Yeah.
talking about that. And
Uncle Joe gets stories in Manoa too.
yeah, Joe. Yeah, so I said I want to get different perspectives from different people, like Joe's interpretation of what he experiences. Even Manoa, Old Pali, and all that. That's what makes it fascinating. Good night, Kuhao. It was good to see you. And again, Kuhao, thank you for your contributions to the show. You really brought a very um, beautiful perspective to everything as well. And again, folks, we're going to keep on moving ahead. Yeah, we got stuff coming up as we get closer and closer to October. And yeah, when October comes around, it's going to be interesting. And it's because we have interesting things to share. So, on behalf of Joe Punoho and myself, and Joe, hang on there until after the show, please.
Mhm.
I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight. Again, I hope these shows help to, in some way, inform you in a very positive manner. So, when you hear something in the night, you know what? It's okay. Let it pass. Turn to the light as always. Abraham says, me and my wife experienced two owls flew in front of our car driving down Daniel K. Inouye Highway on Hawaii Island, heading to Kona. Saddle Road. Wow. Saddle Road. I mean, you see how Hawaii is? These places, I've been through there. And at night too, definitely chicken skin. 13 souls. Please consider being a guest. I mean, he shared some amazing stuff. I know I get caught up in what I'm doing with planning and stuff, but I would like to have you on as well. If not, please continue to share what you've been sharing, and let me know which stories I can, tell everybody, because you said some interesting stuff, my friend. Anyway, guys, I will talk to you all again soon. Monday, Dave He will be on, and we are going to talk spooky stuffs. Spooky stuffs. Oh, you're very welcome to Toki for you. Uh, and thank you, Flamingo Gamer. Thank you so much. Fantastic stuff. Yes, Joe, we get together. It's just fireworks in a way, and all the other people that come on us too, as well too. It's louder than the Hilton Hawaiian Village when we. So anyway, Dave, I'll see you on Monday, my friend. And I'll contact you Monday before we do the show. We're gonna just have fun Monday night and kick back. Not really scary stuff, but just I don't know. We'll even talk about spam musubi and stuff like that. But anyway, find out why, and we'll get together and have fun. Okay, Dave and everyone else.
Yeah, aloha, guys.
Aloha, guys, and thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the stories. Let's do a cooking show. Why not? But you just hear the sound of my voice cracking eggs. But anyway, guys, I will talk to you all later. Ghosts of Hawaii, you're home for a dose of ghosts and hauntings at the old Pali Lookout and things that climb up trees. Think about that. Talk to you all later. God bless. Take care. See ya on the next one.